If you were to pick any day, let's say today, and you go to any photography Facebook group, just pick one, and you go in that group, you're going to find someone asking for photographers to submit their interest for a project, to submit their portfolios, more importantly, to submit their pricing. The problem, and the thing that you might notice, is so many of these requests for these vague projects are done anonymously. And despite that, the original poster asking for photographers is an anonymous poster. You have photographers rushing, dozens, if not hundreds, posting their portfolios, linking their work, posting their rates, and then proceeding to undercut each other, quoting on projects with next to no information. So the question I have is, what serious client chooses to operate this way? So let's dive into that.
Are you tired of the endless stream of fantasy marketing and vanity metrics? Yeah, so am I. My name is James Patrick, and I'm an internationally published photographer, media specialist, and marketing strategist. As a creative entrepreneur, I face the same exact frustrations you have, being bombarded by generic advice that promises success but never lives up to the hype. We need to move beyond the posturing, beyond the facade, beyond the image to navigate the unique challenges we face as creatives. Together, we're going to dive into real stories, real strategies, and the real work that can lead to the real results. This is the Beyond the Image podcast.
What is going on? And thank you so much for tuning into this or latest episode of the Beyond the Image podcast. I'm glad that you could take some time to get some information and get a little inspiration to help you in your creative entrepreneurial journey. Hey, by the way, we have an event coming up in a week, a little over a week, 2 weeks, right around there, here at the Hive Studios, where you get the chance to do a live photo shoot in front of a panel of experts. I will be there. Morel Inglefield, who's the art director of Phoenix Magazine, will be there. Mark Wallace, who's the lead educator for Evoto and Creative Live, will be there as well. And we are going to give you live feedback on your photo shoot. So you get to shoot and you get live feedback on what is working and what you can do to improve your craft live. So those details are at hivestudiosaz.com. We're calling it the cover sessions at the Hive Studios. It is May 28th. So, 10 days from now. Check those details out, hivestudiosaz.com. Click the workshops tab and you will be able to get that information there. All right. So speaking of information, I'm seeing this all the time. Every time I go to a photography Facebook group, I'm seeing anonymous posters asking for photographers to give their rates for a project. Now, the project might give a roundabout loose definition of a scope. Hey, I need a photographer for some portraits on this date. Drop your rates below. I need a photographer to shoot an event on this date. Drop your rates below. But they're hiding most of the details about the project in addition to who they are. They're hiding, what the usage is. They're hiding the timeframes. They're hiding the scope. They're hiding the number of edits. They're hiding the specific deliverables. They're hiding the expectations. They're hiding the turnaround times. Kind of all those things you might want to know to give an accurate assessment. But what they are doing, whilst remaining anonymous, is they're asking everyone to comment below with links to their marketing materials and their package and their rates. So they are trying to commoditize the service of photography. They're trying to price shop. And more importantly, because they're doing this in a public forum, Facebook is a public forum, they're getting everyone to bid against each other publicly. It's not, hey, send us an email or send us a DM with your rates so that people can price accurately, even if they don't know all the details of the project. At least when you say send us an email or send us a DM, you're at least keeping the rates blind, so you're not getting photographers struggling and trying to leverage against one another as they're racing to the bottom, trying to be the cheapest. That's what they're trying to do. Also, trying to remain anonymous creates a power imbalance. We get to see everything about you. We get to see who you are, who your work, what your work is, what your price structure is, everything. But you don't get to see anything about us. You know, I could say, hey, we need some headshots done. And you're thinking, oh, this is just an individual needing headshots. Meanwhile, I'm representing a Fortune 100 company, but you don't get to see that. That's an inequitable power imbalance. And these things matter when it comes to accurately pricing proposals. So this really hurts everyone involved. Well, except for the person posting anonymously. But the problem with that person or that company is when you choose to do that, you are very adamantly saying that you see photography as a commodity, not as a service that you have value in. You do not value photography. If you valued photography, you'd find a photographer and you'd work with a photographer. You're price shopping. You're price shopping someone to snap photos. That's all you're doing. And because you're hiding yourself, and the argument is, well, I don't want to be inundated with people, soliciting me. Then why are you posting in a Facebook group? Is my first response. Oh, I don't want people to bother me. No, that's not it at all. I don't buy that for a second. You don't want to publicly acknowledge who you are for a couple reasons. One, you don't want to be seen as trying to find the cheapest rate, and maybe you're embarrassed about that. Or two, you're trying to hide something. I really don't buy the privacy thing. You're trying to get the cheapest rate you can because you don't see value in this service and you don't want to publicly be known as the person trying to do that. Or you're hiding something. And when I say hiding something, it sounds way more nefarious. It's not good. I don't mean it's malicious. But for example, you could have a project that is a much bigger scope or much more complex details or has a much more profound usage, and you're trying to keep that minimized by shielding yourself behind an anonymous post. But what you're doing and why this hurts everyone else is you are getting people to compete against each other publicly. If once again, this were just send us your stuff, send it to this email. You don't like people saying stuff to your personal email? Make a new email address just for people to submit to. That doesn't take long and has a little bit more transparency on your end. But when you get people to do it in an open forum, what you're doing is you're getting people to see what everyone else is posting. So when someone posts, hey, I'll do it for $500, everyone thereafter sees, well, if I need to get noticed, I need to be under $500. Now it's $400. Now it's $199. Now it's $50. Hey, you know what? I'm just looking for some good experience. I'll do it for free. And I'm not trying to throw shade at these photographers. They want work. They're hungry for work. Competitive pricing is something photographers do when they are hungry for work. And that might be offensive to some photographers, be like, this project is not worth it would not be worth it for anyone to do this under 800. Well, that's a misnomer. That's misleading anyone. For some people, $500 is a game-changing opportunity. $200 is a legendary opportunity. And maybe it is not worth the $800 photographer. But when you have people doing this publicly, you have them racing to the bottom. And when you race to the bottom, no one wins. Because what you're doing is you're racing to the bottom for someone who does not respect your work enough to have, one, a blind bid, meaning you're not publicly bidding against each other, or two, they're hiding their own identity. They don't respect you enough to let you know who they are. And you're racing to the bottom for them. That's what ends up really hurting this. They're commoditizing the creative services. They're normalizing low budget expectations. When you are bidding on something, it is important for you, even if, for example, even if you have preset packages, your preset packages have specificity. Your preset packages have a time frame. Your preset packages have a number of edits. Your preset packages have a specific usage. Your preset packages include a specific number of team members, has a range of where you're willing to travel. There are boundaries on what you're willing to do in your preset packages. But even just setting preset packages aside, in order to properly give an estimate, you have to know what the scope of a project is. You have to know what the deliverables are, what the timeline is, what the usage rights are, how many people you need, what the production requirements are. Are there going to be multiple levels of revisions? Do you need to travel? What are the rights and the exclusivity on this project? What's the expectations of the turnaround? All of this is nuance. I mean, a person needing a photo for their LinkedIn headshot has a way different scope of complexity than we need a photo of our CEO of a top company in the state. But you would not know that. You wouldn't know that the one company is going to use this and submit it for media features, meaning it's going to end up on the cover of magazines because they're doing sponsored content, and the other is just one person using it on a LinkedIn profile. These are not the same projects. And you can't have that conversation with them because they do not want to have the conversation. They don't want to have the conversation of, can you tell me a little bit about your project? And they're not willing to do that because they've not given you their contact information. They're not willing to do that because they're not responding to people posting their rates. They're not willing to engage with you because they don't want to hear from you. They want your links and your rates. That's it. So if you have questions, you're too difficult. Someone else gave us a rate. This is not a mutually beneficial way to handle creative services. If you can give a quote in a half a sentence project description, knowing nothing about who the client is or any of the specificity of what the project requires, that is a very precarious position to put your business in. The psychology of this is it encourages people to believe that the low price is always the price that wins. It creates artificial urgency because you see so many people engaging that you think you have to rush and get in right away. It creates a desperation in pricing, a desperation in pricing. And you're pitting professionals against inexperienced vendors. That's a rough position to be in. The alternative for creatives is to focus on manual outbound, direct outreach to clients. We've talked about referrals. We've talked about discovery calls. We've talked about having opportunities to give clear creative approaches and creative briefs so you can understand the defined expectations of a project. It is an enormous red flag for me if a client contacts me for a project. I'll give two examples. Both happened within the last week. One project said, hey, we need some photos and videos done around this time frame. What's your price? And it says, can we jump on a call to talk about what you're looking for? And they said, absolutely. And we spent a half hour talking about what the project is, past work they've done, what worked with the past work, what they want improved in the past work, what they're hoping to do next, what they are going to use it for, what they consider to be a successful outcome, what the team requirements would be, what the editing process would be, all the specific details for what they need. And we're going to put together a creative approach on that. They even went out of their way when we asked, can we see other examples of stuff that you've done so we can get a sense clearer of what you liked and what you didn't like in your past work? What in your past work you thought was successful and what you'd want to improve upon? Absolutely. We'll get that over to you, was their response. That is a client who is committed not just to getting the best rate. Of course, every client wants the best rate. It's not about being the cheapest. They want the best value for the rate. That's a big difference. I had another client say, I'm looking to have some headshots done. Okay, can you tell me a little bit about the number of shots you want, what you want the shots to look like? I just need headshots done. Can you tell me the price? There's no chance, even if I was to lowball that I would win that. They're not willing to engage and to talk with me about what they want. They're not actually looking to hire a creative partner. They're price shopping a commodity. And we don't win those projects when someone's price shopping a commodity. Never. No chance. The other projects, though, when a client's willing to talk to us, we win a lot of those. And I want you to understand the difference between those things. You should be asking very specific qualifying questions when someone contacts you for a project. You should be open. A client should be open to getting on a call with you, to answering questions. If a client is unwilling to answer questions or is trying to rush you into something, we've even had it where a client wants us to bid on a project and we'll say, is there a chance we can walk through the location of the project that you were shooting at so we can get a better sense of what you're looking to have done? And if a client's willing to do a walkthrough with us, that's a great sign. If a client says, no, we don't have the time for that, that's a red flag. If a client is not willing to work with us so we can give the best, most accurate assessment of what they can invest, that's an issue. But I say that, and I don't want you to believe that that's the majority. It's not. So many of the clients we work with are going to have those conversations, are excited to talk about their projects, want the best value they can get because they want the project to succeed. That's what we should be focusing on, not these public bidding wars where we're racing to the bottom because no one wins. Your pricing should come after you understand the project, not before you understand the assignment. So the more the client's willing to hide, I would argue the more the red flags there are. And if clients expect us to be fully transparent, and a client should have that expectation, that's not unrealistic for a client to expect their service providers to be transparent with them, but the client should also be transparent with their service providers. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Appreciate your 5-star reviews on the Apple Podcast app. For all those who've checked out our Substack account, you can find me, James Patrick Photography, on Substack. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.